Going hot, number 2.
ABC 40's Jared Dobiecki is joined by a cook who's showing us how they're made. Hey, Jared.
Yes, good morning, Tom and Emily. We are live in Feeding Hills at Partners Restaurant, and I'm going to be joined by Chef Joe here, who's going to be cooking us up something special. So I'm going to go behind the camera, give you guys kind of a first-person view of what it's like to be back in the kitchen working with the master Chef Joe.
Jared Dobiecki joins us live now with the latest. Jared.
Yes, that's right, Tom and Emily. This tractor trailer flipped off the side of the road about an hour ago, and crews are still on scene trying to work to remove it to flow traffic. And as you can see, traffic is down to just one lane as interstate crews work to figure out the situation and get the tow truck off of here. Now, I can tell you that this accident is, if you're coming over the South End Bridge from Agawam to Springfield, it's right on the curve heading into downtown Springfield. So if your travel plans have you heading this way, just make sure that you plan ahead, because while there is one lane open, traffic, as you can see, is a little bit slower than usual. I did talk to state police, and they said that the driver is okay. Actually, the semi disconnected from the trailer, so he was able to drive off fine, but the trailer, as you can see, ended up in this ditch here.
Still an incredibly active scene here. There is a manhunt going on here in Holyoke for at least one suspect. Several officers have been walking around with several canine units, also with, of course, high-powered guns in a search for whoever the suspect may be. Now, we can tell you important information that it appears at this point the officer involved in this was not hurt. We do not know about the suspect involved because witnesses did tell us that several shots were exchanged back and forth. One person we spoke to, in fact, noted that the officer he saw the officer chasing the individual behind the house. But again, that officer was not hurt. The suspect, it does appear at this point, has gotten away. But I say there's a heavy police presence here, but if you had just seen a few moments ago before the news came on, there was an even greater presence here. Holyoke Police Chief James Neiswanger is on scene here just moments ago. And so that is all we know for right now, Chris. Still a very active scene. And, of course, we will be on it and bring you the latest.
The major turn tonight in the Ebola crisis. Breaking news, the Ebola emergency.
When Ebola reappeared in Western Africa in early 2014, it's been nearly impossible to turn on the news and not hear about the disease. And with the recent cases here in the United States, the fear of this deadly virus has risen, including right here in Western Massachusetts.
It's a virus that people really don't know a lot about. It's something that has hit Africa in the past, and now it's on our shores, and people are very, very scared. But one thing that we need to really be aware of is that when you hear about a virus that's highly lethal or highly virulent, that's not the same as highly contagious.
Mary Beth Warren has a PhD in virology and has done extensive research on all types of viruses. She believes that the main reason for people's fear of Ebola is simply a lack of information and knowledge about the disease.
And I think not knowing, and I think it is possible that the slower response on the government to anticipate the fear that people would have, I think is just added fuel to the fire.
Warren believes that the chances of Ebola spreading to this area are low.
If you haven't been to Liberia, if you haven't been exposed to people who said they've just come back and were treating people, and if you haven't been next to someone who's saying that and is also very sick, common sense needs to take over.
Now, while Ebola is a highly deadly virus, Warren and many other doctors stress that the ways to protect yourself are actually quite simple, and some can even be found in your own home.
The outer coat is chemically made up of lipids, and that makes it very susceptible to disinfectants.
Warren hopes that by learning more about Ebola, people can understand it better and use that knowledge to make informed decisions when it comes to their health.
The risk of exposure in this area is very, very low. I understand the fear, but you need to balance that fear with what are seriously the chances of getting it contracted.
She goes on to add that the reason why very few people work with the Ebola virus is that in order to study it, a facility must have a biosafety level 4 containment, and currently there are only a handful of these facilities in the United States. In Springfield, I'm Jared Dobiecki, ABC 40.
With me. Life is good.
Meet breast cancer boy. Back in June of 2013, Chris Tebow noticed a strange lump on his chest. But in typical male fashion, he put off going to the doctor until October.
I didn't think for 1 second it was breast cancer at all.
So what were the thoughts going through your head when the doctor gave you the news?
When I got the call initially, it didn't really hit me right then.
What type of oncology is it?
It's breast cancer.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Repeat that, please.
Breast cancer. It's embarrassing. Let's just come out and say it. It really is kind of embarrassing. I mean, that's bad to say because it's cancer and, it's a very hard thing to deal with. But it's kind of embarrassing. If I'm going to get cancer, give me a manly cancer.
And the more research he did, the more alone he felt. Every piece of breast cancer literature he was given was for women, who account for 99% of all breast cancer cases. As a filmmaker, Chris realized he had an obligation beyond beating the disease.
So now I'm that guy, though. I have breast cancer. There's not too many men with breast cancer in the world right now. And I guarantee there's not too many men with breast cancer who are also filmmakers.
So he brought his cameras with him, capturing doctor's appointments, surgeries, and months of chemotherapy and radiation.
This is one of the first times flipping it over and putting the camera my way. I don't necessarily like that. It's a little strange. But I think it needs to be done.
Chris completed chemo and radiation this summer. With a clean bill of health, he's now shifting his focus to completing the documentary, which he hopes to premiere in a few months.
I really do feel like it's my obligation to do this because I have the tools that are necessary to do it.
Yes, good morning, Emily. As you were saying, things are getting back to normal here in Springfield as this district is back open for school. Kids are beginning to file in here at the Renaissance School in Springfield, but there are some districts that are closed, including Palmer and Pathfinder, a few others on delays, such as Westfield, Agawam, and South Hadley. And if you want to check out how your school district is faring, you can head on over to our website, wggb.com, where we have a complete listing of all closings and delays, so you can find out if your kid will be heading to school on time, on delay, or just not at all. But it is still a bit chilly out here, so if you are sending them out, make sure you bundle them up warm. And for a complete look at the rest of the forecast, I'm going to send it over to Dan Brown in the studio. Dan?
ABC 40's Jared Dobiecki, live from the fairgrounds this morning with a sneak peek into the final preparations. Good morning, Jared.
We are live at the Big E inside the Mallory Complex, and with me I have Lottie Page and her beautiful calf here, Jem. Now, Lottie, what is it the 4-H is going to be doing here today? Good morning, everyone. I'm joined here by John Giuliano, the special events director at the Big E, and he actually has some pretty big news that he wants to share with us. John?
And he wants to tuck the edges in so that even somebody who's trying a burrito for the first time and has never had one before can eat it without it falling apart. And that is really good, my man. All right. That's awesome.
Now, for those who don't know, what is Georgia Moon sauce? Because I have no idea what that is.
Georgia Moon is basically a chicken stock with garlic and thyme. Back in the day, they used to put Georgia moonshine in there, too. But it's illegal, and I don't like the store-bought stuff. House jambalaya.
No way.
Is sausage, andouille and smoked kielbasa.
That's great.
Chicken, the Trinity, tomatoes, Georgia Moon, and I'm going to go over here. I need some jambalaya gravy.
And now, what's in jambalaya gravy? Because that's
jambalaya
a little
gravy
different than regular gravy.
Actually, everything that would go into making a traditional jambalaya, we make it into a sauce so that we can build each pan as we need it. Because traditionally, jambalaya, all the seafood would be cooked in the rice, but then you overcook everything. So we do everything individually, and that sauce is what would go into jambalaya.
And now, how long does it take going from stovetop to dish?
I could do a seafood jambalaya in about 7 minutes. The jambalayas take about 7 minutes because we don't overcook anything.
Sounds good.
Nothing gets overcooked.
Now, these jambalayas, this is pretty much the trademark here, one of the trademarks here at Big Mamu, right?
Yes.
Now, what do you think makes your jambalaya a little bit cut above the rest of everybody else?
Well, first of all, you don't have to look for the meat. As you can see, it sits there. Traditional jambalaya, everything's cooked up, and you pick around right here. When you see it plated, everything is visible. It's all fresh. It's done fresh. Fresh Trinity, fresh mussels, fresh fish, fresh shrimp. Done.
I have to agree. It looks absolutely delicious. Well, thank you so much, Chef Wayne.
Well,
if you guys want to come on down, it's down on Liberty Street.
63 Liberty.
63 Liberty.
Big Mamu.
Come on by. They're open for not only lunch, but for dinner, too.
Well, thank you very much.
It was nice meeting you.
It's a pleasure.
Tom and Emily, we'll send it back to you.
A fraction of a second. That's the amount of time it takes from moment of impact until a pedestrian is sprawled out on the pavement. there may be a witness or two.
The car literally hit so hard we heard the hit.
But it's likely they've missed the details of the crash.
Subtract that distance and get the speed at impact that way.
Only in special training will officers learn how to piece an accident scene back together.
They're going to measure from where he was standing, point of impact, to the center of mass of the body.
They do it through physics and different equations, but most importantly, they gather evidence.
All the debris on the ground from a pedestrian crash tells us a story.
At the center of the IPTM advanced training is this articulate dummy.
Well, just a little bit.
Dressed in everyday street clothing.
He's about 5.5 feet tall.
54.
Different colors are painted on the dummy so that when he's hit, we're able to tell where he comes in contact with the car and the ground.
Now to the test. The car accelerates, hits the dummy, and he wraps around the vehicle. The team moves in to investigate.
Where'd he touch down?
Right here.
Photo snap. Officers measure.
22.3, 11.5.
4.6.
And take note of the landing spot.
This mark follows right up to about there.
Now, if you notice, his right elbow was painted orange, his right knee was painted green. Come over to the car.
Right to the front of the one just before that?
That's where the right knee would strike.
Airborne.
That's where the elbow struck.
Right to the front of
It's
the
going to tell us the contact points of the body on the car.
They check out skid marks on the road, and each detail is analyzed.
You may see scuffing on his shoes. You may see some type of dragging on his clothing.
This test is run several times with different variables, increasing the speed and changing the dummy's position to demonstrate how the body reacts differently to a hit.
We're going to do a test right now, maybe about 40 to 50 miles an hour.
They will react the same in this crash on a bicycle as they will if they're standing. The bike will leave evidence in and of itself. That rear tire may get trapped.
The officers training now understand an accident in a whole new way.
Watching the slow motion of the dummy as it gets struck, things, it makes sense. A lot of things I've seen in the past make more sense now.
And a takeaway message for any witness to a scene: leave all evidence in place for a reconstructive unit to move in.
ABC 4H's Jared Dobiecki live now with the very latest. Jared?
Yes, Dave, I'm here at City Hall Place in Springfield, where a water main break, as you said, came about around 10:30 a.m. The water started erupting from the street. Crews were able to shut off water around 11:30 a.m. and they're now, as you can see, working to fix the problem. Thank you, Brittany. Stay safe out there on those roads. Well, up here in Northampton, I would say the story might not be the roads just quite yet. While they are snow-packed with a couple inches of snow, the big story up here, as you can tell behind me with it whipping, is the wind. There are wind gusts that have got to be hitting at least 30 miles an hour. The swirling winds are causing just all kinds of chaos, and let me tell you right now, on my bare skin, it is pretty cold out here. So if you do not have to, do not go outdoors. Now, I have seen many plows, police going up and down the main streets of Northampton, just making sure everything's safe out here. As you know, all town offices and city officials are urged to stay home. The businesses will be closed. There is an emergency shelter located at the Smith Vocational High School. That's on 80 Locust Street. If you do need that, also the public high schools, both Northampton and that Smith Voc, are closed. So there will be obviously no snow today with this big storm. But as I stated before, if you do not need to go outside, just don't. It's bitterly cold out here, and with the snow coming down at a higher pace later on throughout the morning, it's only going to get worse. Tom, Emily, back to you.